All right. Good to be with all of you again. My name is Kambria Evans, and I'm an EMDRIA approved consultant, certified EMDR clinician based in San Jose, California. That's in Silicon Valley and then Northern California Bay Area. And I have been making these videos now since COVID started in response to people feeling confused about what to do, not just with setting up and doing virtual EMDR with clients, maybe for the first time for a lot of us, but just with COVID. How do I respond to my clients now that we have this new layer of stress going on and variables that are new? So I have loved making these videos for all of you. I have loved connecting with all of you through my mailing list. And I've been getting a lot of questions about resourcing. So today's video is going to be focused on that. And hopefully I can answer what you're curious about. If I ever, talk about something and you're wanting to follow up about an additional question, you can always email me, Kambria@KambriaEvans.com. And of course, as always, I have all of my free videos and free downloadable guides for helping you through COVID with your clients on my website. That's KambriaEvans.com. And I'll post the link below so that you can go ahead and click on that. It's on the free resources tab for therapists. So you can go there, you can download all my videos, you can get all the guides I've been posting, and hopefully that feels helpful to you right now, because we could all take all the help we can get right now, right? So, resourcing. So, I had an email from my new friend, Tim, and he said, "Hey, Kambria, I was looking around your website, and I noticed that you have an EMDR resourcing option for your clients. And I noticed that you have a customized resourcing workbook for your clients. Do you think you could share that with us EMDR therapists to help our clients?" I love this idea. 100%, I will do this. So I'm going to go ahead and post this video on my website, and I'll also have the downloadable free workbook that I just use with my clients. Happy to share what's working for me in my practice. But before I just, share that with you, I want to explain a little bit about what resourcing is, what it's not, and the way that I think about resourcing. It's going to be a little bit different than maybe other people's framework for resourcing. So I want to explain that first, answer some of your questions before you go ahead and get the downloadable guide and the workbook. Okay, so one thing that people have been talking a lot about during COVID, during virtual EMDR, is, should I only be resourcing, or should I be resourcing and then processing trauma? Okay, so I talked about this in my first video back in March or April. I've lost track of time. And I think that there are some people who started out, some EMDR thought leaders starting out saying that we should, only be resourcing during COVID and EMDR virtually. So we're in month 4. We're probably going to be doing a lot of virtual EMDR probably for another 6 to 12 months, okay? So if you're not resourcing your clients yet virtually, I would like to take some time during this video to ask more about that. I want to help us understand what a resource is, what is the purpose of a resource, and how a resource is used. And I want to help you understand more about assessing why or why not you are choosing to only resource and not process trauma during COVID and during virtual EMDR. So hope to cover all of that in today's video and hope that feels helpful. So let's talk about EMDR resourcing. Lots of people have written lots of books about resourcing. I know that Laurel Parnell talks a lot about resourcing. But I would like for you, if nothing else from this video, I would like for you to be really clear about your own clinical reasoning choices, okay? So instead of just saying, well, what's the protocol for that? And what's another resource I can do? I want you to think about why and think about your client, okay? Obviously, this is a case-by-case basis, but I want you to understand why you're choosing something, not just because so-and-so famous EMDR person said to do it or not do it. So my hope for you is that we can think about not just what resources are and are not, but also why is that? So that you can feel really confident and clear that you're not just taking something and using it, but that you're really getting the clinical choices that you're making and feeling confident in those, okay? So let's zoom out. shall we? What is resourcing? Okay. Do you have a sense of what resourcing means? Because this is so fundamental to this conversation, okay? So I Googled the definition of resourcing, right? It's providing assets necessary for effective operation. Okay. So if that's true, what are the assets that your client needs during processing hard stuff? Not clients in general, but case by case, what do each of your clients need to process not just all their targets, but maybe a specific target that they're bringing in, okay? So let's think about this. So what is an asset? So resourcing can be external or internal, right? It can be an external asset or an internal asset that we're going to utilize to help us do something. So what's an external resource or an external asset? Okay, so let's think about this. The calm place, right? It can be real, it can be imaginary, but it's external, and it's this place we're going to think of in our mind to help our body do what? It's going to help our body feel calm or safe or neutral for some of our clients. It's going to help our nervous system feel a certain way, our emotions feel a certain way, and it's going to have what? Besides an image, it's going to have a belief attached to that, right? It's going to have a positive cognition, okay? That is an asset. Calm place, wise figure, protective figure, nurturing figure. These figures typically are external. They have an image. They have a body sensation that goes with it and an emotion, true. But it also has a positive cognition attached to it as well, okay? You can think about, and Laurel Purnell talks a lot about this too with like, her book Tapping In. She talks a lot about creative assets like the circle of love or developing the ideal mother. All of these are external, oftentimes imaginary assets that clients can use. Okay. So what is an internal or real asset? Okay. This is great for our clients who are like, Kambria, I don't want to make up a fairy godmother to help me get out of this trauma processing. I want something real. Imagination stuff is not okay for me. Okay, no problem. So what's a real internal asset or resource that a client can use in session? Well, their own qualities, their own abilities, right? So resource development installation is an exercise that we can use to identify a time that someone felt a certain way, okay? So think of a time that you felt powerful. Think of a time that you felt confident, and then installing that resource as an asset for the client to have access to later, okay? Resource development installation is a felt sense from a memory with a positive cognition, a body sensation, right? So like I have a client who loves to go mountain biking, okay? When he's mountain biking, he gets to feel powerful and free. Those are positive things that are true for him cognitively. He can feel the freedom in his body and the release and the relief and the strength. He has many images that are real that we can access to kind of create this resource for him, okay? So all of these assets or resources, whether they're external, internal, real, or imaginary, they're all beneficial to the client. When? When do our clients use resources or assets? Let's talk about that for a little bit. So I think that typically people in training kind of get two ways to think about when they use resources, okay? I actually have a third way that I use resources, and that's through interweaves. I'm gonna, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna do a separate video about resource interweaves at a later date, because it's a huge topic that I could talk about for hours and hours. But for the sake of this video, I wanna focus on just kind of, two ways that we traditionally resource clients. When does that happen? Okay. So the first is in phase 2, right? We've gone through phase 1, we've done our history and assessment, we have a sense of kind of what targets, what positive cognition or negative cognition themes are a problem, we've evaluated symptoms, we've evaluated body sensations, emotions, disturbing images, thoughts, or memories coming in, okay? Now we're in phase 2 and we're resourcing. What does that mean, resourcing? Well, we develop these resources in phase 2, right? To do what with? We can invite our clients to practice them outside of session, right? So when they want to feel loved, they can call on their nurturing figure. When they want to feel protected, they can call on their protective figure. When they want to feel calm or neutral or safe, they can call on their calm, safe, or neutral place, okay? So we just kind of have this general basic toolbox that we give our clients. And we just say, here you go. And go ahead and take this and use this outside of session and let me know how it's going. And that's great. That's great for some clients. Some clients love that, right? Where else do we use resourcing for clients? Well, we use them while we're processing trauma, right? We use them after phase 2, right? So we'll say to them something like, if we're processing something hard, we have these tools to help you ground or help you feel safe again, right? You have your container, you have your light stream, right? We have these resources or assets to help you feel like you're back in your window of tolerance during processing, right? And that can also be really helpful for some clients, isn't it? Right? They can be in processing with you in your office or virtually during COVID, and they start to get really shut down or really hyped up, and we can just kind of bring them back if it feels like it's too much to be with those feelings, okay? And some clients feel really safe knowing that they have those things. So when are resources or assets not helpful to the client? Have you ever thought about that question before? I think we all kind of, after basic training, just kind of feel like we got fire hosed with information and we're just trying to figure out how to do it, right? But if you've been doing EMDR for a while now, I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, we start to kind of notice, when does this formula not really make sense in this way, okay? So let's think about this idea of using resources outside of session. So initially when COVID started, when shelter in place started, we all had to move to virtual. And hats off to all of us, by the way, for figuring out how to do that. That was tough. Some people were saying, just go ahead and resource through COVID. Just don't process any trauma. Just develop those resources and do all those things. And then after COVID, after virtual EMDR, then it's safe to process trauma with your clients. Okay. So here's a hypothetical situation where this might actually be not helpful to your client. Okay, let's imagine that you have a client who is constantly triggered at home, where we all are spending a lot of our time right now, okay? And let's imagine that this client has been told by her therapist that when she gets triggered, just call in your calm place, just call in your team of figures, just go ahead and breathe, do your mindfulness exercises, call in your light stream. Okay. So what is the huge limitation for some of our clients here? Well, when we're triggered and we're offline, do all of our clients have the capacity to say, oh, I'm triggered, I'm offline, better go ahead and call in my team and call in my calm place? No. A lot of our clients can't do that, at least not in the moment, right? So what are we asking them to do? We're basically saying to them, you have this wound and it's profusely bleeding. And when it's really starting to gush, just go ahead and get a Band-Aid, right? I want to invite you to think about this. If someone's offline and they cannot pull a resource in, okay, we are asking them to spend an exorbitant amount of emotional energy to go through this trigger, however those adaptive or maladaptive responses need to play out, to be in that. I mean, for some of our clients, that can be hours or days, right? And then we're saying, oh yeah, when your brain kind of starts to come back online a little bit, go ahead and call that resource in, okay? I don't know that that's helpful to some clients. I don't know that during a pandemic, asking them to call in a resource when they're offline or when they're starting to come back online is making them less exhausted, right? I think what it's doing is having them go through that, all of those feelings again, and feeling maybe guilt or shame that they didn't think to call in the resource or couldn't get to it until a certain point, right? Again, this is for some of our clients, not all of our clients, but for those, you know, the clients I'm talking about, for those clients who just go offline and get triggered and can't call a resource in because they just don't have the brain capacity, because that's not how brains work, right? What else can we do for them? What else can we do for them besides say, just go ahead and call in your calm place and I'll see you in 6 months to 12 months, right? So here's where my question comes back to of, you know, it is one thing for our clients to not want to do virtual EMDR because they are in a house with no privacy and they're in a house with, their perpetrator, or they're in a house with just not a lot of resources to help them have that container of safety, right? But I want to challenge you a little bit, okay? I want to challenge you and I want to invite you to ask yourself, am I not processing trauma with my clients virtually because I am scared? Because I don't want to do that because I've never done that before. I don't want to process trauma virtually because I'm not there with my client. I don't want to process trauma virtually with my client because it's new to both of us and there's already too many new things and we're already overwhelmed. Or I just don't feel comfortable. What if they have an abreaction? What if something bad happens, right? Again, for some clients, these are real concerns, 110%. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about how we know if a client is resourced enough to process trauma virtually, right? But I want you to take a really good hard look inside your heart, and I want you to ask yourself if you are the reason that you're only choosing to resource and not choosing to process trauma. I want you to take a good hard look in your heart and ask yourself, do I have a client or any clients who maybe could do some processing of trauma virtually, right? Knowing I'm not going to see them in person for a very long time. But I am just feeling like I don't know how, or it's new, right? I want to encourage all of you to think about what resources or assets that you need as a trauma therapist right now, which I'm not even going to call self-care. I'm just calling it like a professional responsibility. Do you have a consultation group? Do you have a consultant? Do you have a colleague that is really wonderful at this that you can call up and say, hey, I'm nervous to do virtual EMDR trauma processing and I haven't done it for 3 and 4 months now, and my clients are just resourcing and they're trying to call in their complex, but like they're still getting triggered. I want you to think about what you, the therapist, needs to show up in a responsible, professional way right now, because this is hard for all of us and it's scary for all of us. And I want to let you know that, again, not for all clients, but for some of my clients, most of my clients, we are doing virtual EMDR, and we have been doing it now for 3 or 4 months, and it just feels like how we've always done it. We have completely adapted to doing it this way. And it was really uncomfortable initially, but we figured it out. I've gotten new clients who have started with me virtually. I've never met them before, ever. And we have that virtual felt sense and that trust and that connection to do this. So I just want to come in here and say that it is possible. It is possible, okay? And resourcing is fantastic. I love all the people that have come before us in terms of EMDR researchers and thought leaders who have given us these amazing gifts of EMDR and resourcing and all of these incredible innovations that are helping our clients' brains function better and feel less disturbed. It's magical. It's scientific. I love it. I could talk about EMDR all day, and I have so much appreciation for everyone that's come before us who is moving this forward. And sometimes resourcing is not okay. Just resourcing sometimes is not okay. So I hope that message makes sense to you, and I hope it feels like it's in service for you, okay? I also want to share that I am opening up my fall session of consultation groups. Information about that is also on my website, cambriaevans.com. If you don't feel like you have a group of people during COVID to help you figure these things out, I will absolutely keep making these videos. It is a privilege for me to do that and a joy. And please find some people to help you. Come and work with me. Come and find a group locally, whatever it is that you need to do. Please don't try to figure this out by yourself, because this is a lot of stretching for a lot of us, okay? So we've talked about two kinds of resources, external and internal. We've talked about when therapists ask clients to use resources, which is phase 2, resource development. Go ahead and practice them at home, out in the world. And then also, secondly, during processing of trauma, if you need to kind of get back in the window of tolerance. So we've covered all of that. I mentioned that I use interweaves as resources, and I will make another video about that very, very soon, because that's a whole huge topic that's really juicy and lovely to talk about. But I think what I want to talk about in this video a little bit is how to think kind of more like a brain surgeon when it comes to resourcing, okay? So why a brain surgeon? So brain surgeons are highly specialized, okay? They're like laser focused, right? When they go and open up someone's brain, they have a pretty good plan and path about how to heal the brain, okay? So why are EMDR therapists like brain surgeons? So we, and every target that we set up, are so laser focused, aren't we? We have a target that has very specific variables in it, right? Think about it. Let's say somebody comes in and they're like, I was bullied as a kid and it's really coming up for me now when I'm on these meetings virtually with people at work. And I can feel myself getting all triggered, and it's really, I need to desensitize it. Okay, so that's the goal of the target. Okay, beautiful. So what do we do as an EMDR brain surgeon, right? We don't just kind of talk about, oh, how does it make you feel? And what's it like to notice when you get triggered? I mean, we talk about those things, and then we have a super laser focused plan called a target, right? What's the most disturbing image? Or what part has the most disturbance for you now when you are, having this history of being bullied and it's coming up now in these meetings? Image, variable 1, right? What are the words that go with that for you now? What's the negative cognition? What are we doing? We're trying to figure out what is the belief that goes with that, right? What is the narrative? What's the story? And then what do we do, you guys? We ask, what is the positive cognition? After we process this, what is the positive cognition that you want to have instead when this comes in? Let's say negative NC is I am powerless, or I don't have choices. And let's say PC is I am powerful, or I have options now. Okay. What did we just do in the target setup? We just identified the laser-focused resource that client needs to get through this target. Think about that for a second. Okay. We already asked the positive cognition in the target setup. Okay. Why aren't we doing two things with that? Why aren't we going back and giving them a resource around that positive cognition? Why aren't we thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, this person wants to feel powerful? Well, when we did resource development installation, we talked about mountain biking and how powerful he felt then. Okay, I'm going to make a note of that. We have a specific customized resource for this target that I should probably figure out how to use or offer or make more in the forefront, right? Let's say we have a client setting up a target with you who has a positive cognition that was not connected to their resource development installation in phase 2. What if we have a client who sets up a target and their PC is something like, I am valuable. Okay, the minute I hear that, as I'm setting up the target, I'm going to go back and do an inventory in my mind. Okay, what resources have we installed that allow that client to believe I am valuable? Is it the calm place? I don't really know. I don't know what PC goes with their calm place. Okay. Is it their nurturing figure? I don't know. Is it their wise figure, protective figure? Wait a minute. Maybe I don't have a resource for that client where they get to believe I am valuable. Okay. If I don't have that and I'm setting up the target, before we process, maybe we install that. Okay. If the client's setting up the target and they're feeling it and they want to just go right into processing, what am I going to do? I'm going to find interweaves that are all about that positive cognition. Okay. I'm going to think about how to, as a brain surgeon, laser focus my resourcing during processing so that I get to help them move towards that positive cognition. Does that make sense? And then I want to make sure that if we're in the middle of a target and we have some time in between, I'm going to make sure that they have a resource that is connected to that positive cognition. Okay? Again, they're giving us the positive cognition. What are we doing with it besides saying, oh, I guess that's where they want to go, so maybe we'll get there. We can use resourcing in such creative ways. We can customize our resources so they are laser focused, right? Just like how a doctor, when a patient comes in and has these symptoms, they're thinking about what are the medications that we're going to help them get to the symptom alleviation that they want. Okay, so I'm going to probably post some resources on my website about some examples that might help you kind of think through how to do that in a way that doesn't feel like we're breaking basic protocol or doesn't feel clunky. But I want to just plant this idea in your mind that when I'm in phase 1, I'm doing history and assessment, and we're talking about potential targets. If I see a theme coming up, right, with negative cognitions, I'm going to be asking myself, wow, this client has a lot of experiences where they don't feel valuable. Maybe in phase 2, I want to find a resource for them where they do feel valuable. Maybe that's going to be through the resource development installation exercise for phase 2 resource development. Maybe it's going to be through thinking of a person in their life who helped them feel valuable. And maybe that is their nurturing figure, but I don't know. I need to make sure that I know, and then I need to reflect back to the client that they know, so that they can grab that resource, okay? It's not helpful to have a bunch of resources and a bunch of assets if I, as the client, don't have a clear inventory of how to use them and when, okay? And so this is where I'm talking about getting really laser focused, again, like a brain surgeon, to be really specific, to help your client not just, process through after phase 2 and into phases 3 and 4 and so on, but, think about how they might be able to use these types of resources at home, okay? If they're getting triggered at home, and it's all around this belief of I'm not valuable, right, for example, but I haven't given them resources to feel valuable, how good is a calm place going to be? It might be all right. It's maybe like a Band-Aid, right? But what if I gave them some resource development installation that was all around times they felt so valuable? Would that be a better alternative? I would argue yes. Okay. So I hope that this idea around thinking about what a resource is, when to resource, and how to resource in a really clinically specific and effective way, I hope all of this feels helpful. Okay. And I want you to know that as a fellow EMDR clinician who's also, basically sheltered in place still. I also have, like I've mentioned, I have 3-year-old twins at home. I feel for everyone, for all of you, the work that we're doing and what we're trying to manage both in the office or in our home offices and just in our personal lives. I mean, this is just overwhelming. My intention is to shame no one around processing with clients, okay? If you've decided as a therapist, I just can't do that right now. I just want you to know that and be okay with it, okay? I just want you to be clear about why you're choosing to process trauma virtually and not. So now that we've talked a little bit about that, I do want to talk about how do we assess, okay, if a client is resourced enough to process trauma in general, but also virtually, okay? So I'll never forget, I got a client virtually. I've never met her before, and she is a nurse. And I went to my consultant, and I was saying, oh my gosh, this person is constantly traumatized every single day. This person is traumatized at work with COVID in the ICU. I don't know if we should process past trauma or even current trauma, because I don't want to overwhelm this person. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to do it wrong. And then I started thinking with my consultant, Deanie Laliotis in DC. She's incredible. She asked me, how do we know if this person is resourced? Well, I haven't installed the Calm Place. No. How do we know that this person is just a resourced person? Yes, they're in trauma. Yes, they have a history of trauma. But is this person a resourced person who can handle this? And I thought a lot about that question. Now, if this person was in my office, I would probably feel a lot less scared and a lot more confident, right? But this person, again, never met processing virtually, right? Or invitation to process virtually. It's kind of scary. It's a lot of newness, okay, for everybody. And I thought about it. She had an AA group. She had a sponsor. She was sober still. She had a great group of friends. She had a great group of colleagues, very supportive colleagues. So even though she was in this, as a nurse in this ICU and seeing horrible trauma every day, all day, she was a pretty resourced person, right? She had her faith as a Christian that helped her. She had a great connection with her kids. And she was able to do phase 2. Let's think about that for a second. So phase 2 is not just about installing resources or assets, okay? Phase 2 is assessment, isn't it? Phase 2 is assessment. Can our clients install resources? What does that mean? So we know that everyone that comes to work with us has maladaptive memory networks and adaptive memory networks, okay? We are essentially in phase 2, we're trying to light up adaptive networks to just see what's there, what's under the hood, how much adaptive stuff is here that we can connect to help us, okay? So phase 2 is assessment, right? So when I did phase 2 with this client, I was like, it was easy, nothing was blocking it. So I actually really transformed my understanding of, can this client process trauma virtually with me, given all of these things I'm scared about? And the answer was yes. And you guys, we are processing her trauma, and she's doing incredible. Okay, we're processing childhood stuff with some floatbacks. We're processing recent traumas with just things she's seeing at work. And I am going to do a video about healthcare workers and what I've been learning working with them the past several months. So stay tuned for that. But the point of this is for you to think about, how do I understand if my client is resourced? Okay, just because my client is in an active trauma or has a history of childhood trauma doesn't mean that they can't process virtually. Okay, so something for us to think about with our clients. And again, I want us to think about this idea of lighting up the positive adaptive memory networks, okay? That when we're given a PC and a target setup, that's gold. Don't just keep going to the VOC. It's like, note that, okay? Note that and do something with it that can help your client. Because oftentimes when we do process with a client, they are going to maybe not finish the whole target, right? How cool would it be if they had a customized resource, a customized asset to help them in between sessions and when we're doing a target? How cool would that be? If I was a client, I would feel so safe having that I would know that my EMDR therapist was listening to me and seeing me and help me think about, well, we have all these assets and resources for you that we're supposed to do from basic training, but let's customize some stuff for you. I would love that. So all of this to say, think about it. If you're noticing, oh my gosh, I am feeling scared to do this. My clients, some of them are resourced. Why am I not processing with them virtually yet? It's been 3 or 4 months. I want to encourage you to talk to your own therapist, get consultation, just get support. Everyone needs so much support right now, you guys, seriously. So just think about that. And also, if you're feeling curious about how to get really laser focused, like a brain surgeon, and play with that positive cognition for your clients, I would love for you to come to my website. Again, the link is below to get the customized resourcing workbook that I give my clients when they come into my practice. So you guys are doing incredible work. I hope some of that or all of that was helpful to you. It's such a joy, truly, for me to make these videos. This is definitely my coping strategy for my own frustration and helplessness and feeling trapped with COVID, to reach out to all of you to hear how my tools and ideas are changing your practice and work with people, to make these connections with you, to feel like I have some agency to help not just my clients, but to help other people help their clients, really is just incredibly nourishing for me. So I hope that you continue to find your own ways of feeling nourished during this time. If no one has told you today, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your perseverance. Thank you for watching this video. I know that time is a precious asset and resource for lots of us, especially those with kids. So just know that I think you're awesome, and I look forward to connecting with you, and I will be sure to go ahead and have our next video up in the next week or so. And in the meantime, be well, be safe, take care.